Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of On the Mark here at Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and it's a new year, and some of us have made resolutions that we've already broken. Some of us are trying to get in shape, eat better, do things differently than we did last year. And so today in our program, we'll be talking with two people who are experts in doing things better. Our first guest is Dr. Gary Gorman, who is a familiar voice here on both 89.5 FM WSKB and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15. He's a chiropractor, and you often hear or see him on Wednesdays on Tina Gorman's show, talking about ways to stay in shape and be healthy. So I'm really glad to have Gary Gorman on my show for the first time. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Mark. Nice to be on your show with a different host. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and it's great to actually have a chance to talk to you rather than just get a chance to listen to some of the things you've done. But you certainly, for our programming here, have done a lot of great things on the Wednesday program with in-studio exercise programs to advice and all of that. So you're one of my colleagues that is just providing so much here.
Well, thank you so much. You know, it's an honor to do it. I really appreciated it when Tina first asked me to do this several years ago. We got into a really nice routine, and since COVID times, I felt as a chiropractic physician it was really essential to help provide tools and models for folks to be able to stay active and shelter at home and maintain some level of health. And so it's a pleasure for me to do. It's actually a lot of fun to do it, and you know, there's a great team over there with Pete Coles running the show and Kenny. So it's nice, Mark. It's really fun. You picked a heck of a subject matter here with better living in the new year, because it could be a 2 or 3 hour discussion. And I know where time is limited. So what I've decided to do is I've tried to put down some bullet points, and you can stop me. We can discuss it anywhere along the line, and perhaps we'll have to go with a follow-up time at some point in time on this.
We might just have to have a Gary Gorman marathon and get you in the studio at some point down the road. But here's the way I first see things. I mean, all of us a new year means new beginnings, and it doesn't make a difference what new year it is. And people set resolutions. I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to eat better. I'll quit smoking. I'll go to the gym. I'll do this. I'll do that. And they set that for January 1st, and by January 7th, they've lost the skill set to do that. And we're in a unique time with the pandemic where if you want to go to the gym, it's very difficult because a lot of gyms are closed, or because of social distancing, limit hours that are available. It's also colder weather and people don't like to be outside. So how do you stay in shape in tough times, and what are simple things that you can do to maintain an equilibrium, if we could say that?
Well, you know what? I think really going back for 1 second to the New Year's resolutions that are broken, I'm going to throw out a couple of guidelines which I feel that will lead to a successful long-term New Year's resolution pact that you give to yourself. You're absolutely right. The gyms are packed. Pre-COVID, the gyms were packed for the first month of January because everybody was out there doing their New Year's resolution, and by February, it was back to normalcy. So I feel a couple guidelines are we all need to be very honest with ourselves, and we need to set realistic goals and expectations, and limit the number of resolutions and not have a total makeover the first of the year, because anybody that does that sets themselves up for failure, sets themselves up for not achieving these goals. Don't have an all or nothing attitude, Mark. For example, somebody would say, I want to walk for an hour a day. Well, that's a pretty realistic goal. You know, if it's not inclement weather and you could bundle up, you could walk around your house, you could walk around your block, stay close to home in case it gets too cold for you, you have to duck in. So you could break that up into 4 15-minute intervals in the course of a day. It's a cumulative positive result that takes place. You could do things at home. I think, as you mentioned earlier, the videos that we have designed that are on the City of Westfield website are absolutely phenomenal with a lot of really, really good instructors. I actually my new practice is at the Eastworks building in East Hampton, and we have a whole rehabilitation facility. It's a full-size gym facility, and we are very COVID friendly, very COVID connected with how we clean and how we circulate our air and things. And if we've had 5 or 6 people at one time in there, most of them are patients of ours, that's a lot. But I will walk a power walk out in the hallway for a half an hour. It's those old wooden floors that are very friendly on our weight-bearing joints. So, a person could get into the car. I've always had mixed feelings about walking around the hallways to the mall because the flooring is so hard that it is not user-friendly to spend long times walking on. But there are a lot of access to videos at home and walking indoors, but the key is to be consistent with it and do it on a really regular basis and give yourself wiggle room. It's not making excuses if you say, I just feel a little under weather today, I'm taking a day off. You put on your calendar rest day, and then you pick up tomorrow, because we need to build that into the equation. That's not a failure. It's, okay, my body is telling me I have to be down today. I have to just shut things back, throttle back a little bit, and give myself a little bit of a break. So I think really the big thing is set your goals that are realistic, build in a little flexibility, be realistic, and be consistent, and be patient. January 1, I want to lose 40 pounds to get into my bathing suit for June. Well, why don't you say, let's do a pound a week? So at the end of 2021, it's 52 pounds in an entire year or something of that nature, and give yourself the flexibility to reset those goals. And you know what, Mark, what I love to do, and Tina does it consistently as well, is we have a old-fashioned hang-up-on-the-wall or refrigerator calendar. And what we will do is we will mark our exercise on that calendar, because when you start to do that, mentally, you don't want to see open days or open spaces on that calendar. And it is a huge motivation to say, you know what, I'm going to exercise today. I don't feel like I want to, but I'm going to do it anyway, because there's no reason why I shouldn't. And so I think that's the big thing. I feel Westfield has a great advantage having access to the public access station to look at these videos that Pete has set up live, and that's the biggest virtue, because some populations don't have access to computers, they don't have access to smartphones, so it's a little bit more difficult. But if you can utilize those videos, if you can't, when the weather permits, get out and do short walks several times a day if you have the time to do it. And if the weather does not permit, do it right in your home. Walk around your dining room table. Walk around your apartment. It's not only keeping active, but avoiding prolonged sitting. So if you're a reader, if you're a TV watcher, if you're a crossword puzzle performer, then set the electronic timer on your oven for every half an hour or 45 minutes. It forces you to get up. It forces you to walk around. Break the cycle. If you're watching TV, every commercial, get up and do a little walking and then move around. So these are little tips that people can do that doesn't cost them anything except just committing to their own health and well-being.
And it makes sense, especially if you're working at home and you're in front of the computer all day. Your legs get tired, your back gets tired. But if you set a break into your work schedule so you get up and just stretch, that's a good start.
That is really a good start, and you bring up an excellent point. I'm so entrenched with the older adult population working with Tina so much, but you're right. There are so many people that are working from home nowadays, and my suggestion to those folks who have had a career transition from going to an office to going to home are twofold. Number one, see if you can purchase a Veridesk or some sort of sit-stand desk situation, because that is a great tool to be able to remain productive, but changing your posture, changing your position, and not sitting too long. There's a new catchphrase that's been out for about 4 years now, and I think I've talked about this on the radio station. It's called "Sitting is the New Smoking." We now know how detrimental prolonged sitting time is to our bodies in several different areas, and that's something for a future topic. So if you can have access to a sit-stand desk, or even if you even get even more excited, there are treadmill desks where there is a treadmill and a rack that you put your laptop on, and you could walk at a mile and a half, 2 miles per hour while you're standing at your laptop.
Yeah,
Secondly,
I've learned
go ahead,
that
Mark.
at physical therapy, where I can put my laptop or my tablet on a stationary bike and be bicycling while I'm doing email, and I mean, it makes a big difference.
It really does. And I am an advocate. I've transitioned from a running world to a cycling world because I kind of aged out of marathons and half marathons, and I did a ton of road cycling this summer. And I think cycling is what you just mentioned, is really a really good vehicle for those that don't spend all day sitting. If you have a desk job and you're at your desk for 8 hours, I really try to encourage my own patient population to use a treadmill or get out and walk, and use a bike at a last resort. But for those of us who are up and about and active all day, a stationary bike is a great mode of what we call cross training. You could use your cycling 1 or 2 days a week. You could do a treadmill 1 or 2 days a week, or get out and walk with the fresh air, hike. People are hiking all year round, weather permitting. I drive into East Hampton, and I see the cars parked up at Whiting Reservoir and up at the Mount Tom Reservoir. It's just getting back with Mother Nature is really great. But back to the second point, which I think is important, is that laptops are not designed to spend prolonged periods of time on. They are designed to carry large quantities of data from point A to point B. So if you are on your laptop working from home, I strongly suggest you go to one of the retail office supply stores and buy a docking station. And a docking station is simply a tower that you're going to clip your laptop on, and a wireless keyboard and mouse. So you're turning your laptop computer into your desktop computer, because these are the kind of cases I see every day in my practice with headaches and upper back problems, because people are contorting themselves for prolonged periods of time on their laptop getting data accomplished, and it's just very, very unhealthy.
Yeah, I've switched to a tablet for a lot of that. I mean, there's certain things you can't do on a tablet, but a tablet is light. I can put it on the kitchen counter and stand while I'm using it, and it just makes me feel that I'm moving around, because once I sit down for an extended period of time, it's difficult to get up and move.
Absolutely. And you know what? Do the best you can while you're sitting. You know, lounging back in a reclining chair or laying on your bed propped up against a bedboard is not a good idea. Don't use your bed for anything other than sleeping in, because that will start leading to a whole other set of problems, such as insomnia. So if you are using your computer at home, pretend you're at work, sit at a desk, sit at your kitchen table, sit upright, and perform your duties and take periodic breaks. I think these are all really crucial. They don't seem like a big deal, but when you start adding them all up, they are really good pearls of wisdom to kind of keep you healthy for a longer period of time. So,
No, I totally agree. Gary, what about diet? I mean, people tend to be more lethargic in the winter months when it's cold
yeah.
and they stay indoors. What do you recommend to people that not necessarily want to lose weight, but just want to keep stable? How should they change their diet and their exercise habits in the winter?
Yeah, I think I think a good way to do it is first figure out what you're eating. So I would pull up on the computer a 7-day food intake form, print it out, and for 1 week, look at your diet, everything that you put into your mouth, and say, oh my God, I am eating 80% carbohydrates. I eat too much pasta. I eat too much grain. I eat too much this. And you kind of do a quick assessment of that. It's very safe to start increasing your fruits, vegetables, and proteins and stay away from the classic comfort foods. Comfort foods are labeled for a reason. They make you feel comfortable. When you come home after a bad day, you're not going to make yourself a chef salad, but what you're going to do is say, "Oh my God, I'd love to have some tortellini soup tonight, or I'd love to have some tortellini and pasta with spaghetti sauce tonight, or I'd love to do, spaghetti and meatballs, or whatever it is." So start tweaking it, and it's not a matter of taking away some things necessarily, but adding things. And Mark, I can't stress enough the importance of hydration, of drinking enough water during the day. I find most people, our generation not so much, because we often carry around water bottles with us, and we often carry around bottles that we know how much we've consumed during the course of the day. But I will do well visit checks at the senior center with Tina when they do curbside pickups, and constantly asking the older adults, are you hydrating enough during the day? Are you drinking enough water during the day? That's important, and I suggest what they do is they take a quart container or a liter container, they fill it up in the morning, and they just consume one of those in the morning and one of those in the afternoon, and make sure that they are due diligent and sipping throughout the course of the day, because it's very easy to dehydrate. But as a colleague of mine who's written 4 or 5 books on diet and nutrition, greens, not grains. That's a simple adage. Greens, not grains. Start to eat more fruits and vegetables, salads during the day. A little tidbit what Tina has been doing for a long time, Mark, which I think will help the folks that are working during the week and don't want to come home and make their meals. On a Sunday, she will have all the fixings to make a huge salad in a large stainless steel bowl. Stainless steel prevents wilting of lettuce. So you make a huge salad with all the fruit, all the vegetables that you like in it. Put it in the refrigerator on a Sunday. It will last you the rest of the week. So you get home, you boil some hard-boiled eggs. You could take out a can of tuna fish. You go to the local supermarket and pick out a rotisserie chicken. You cut that up so you have a beautiful salad. Put some balsamic vinegar and olive oil on it. Cut some chicken or turkey slices, a couple hard-boiled eggs, some nuts and seeds. And boy, oh boy, I have to tell you, right then and there is a very wholesome, healthy diet. And and it's high in nutritional value, low in caloric value. So it is healthy and not going to pack on the weight. So we want to have foods and select foods that have a high nutritional value, low caloric value. And if we could find that, it's a beautiful thing, and it's good for you. So
yeah, let me go back. You were talking about hydration, and it's important to drink a certain amount of liquid every day. Does tea or coffee or soda or juice count towards the hydration, or is it specifically water?
I would have to say no. You can add a cup of tea to your day. I drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning. That's my allowance, along with drinking a minimum of a half gallon of water a day throughout the course of the day. Mark, that is an added bonus to you. If you want to have a cup of tea in the afternoon because you find that you're a little tired, so be it. But that does not substitute water. Soft drinks are terrible for you because they are full of sugar and additives, and what happens is your blood sugar, your glycemic index goes up, so your blood sugar level jumps. It forces your pancreas to secrete insulin, and you have this post-glycemic downturn where you start to get really tired. So you have a rush of caffeine and sugar, and then all of a sudden you have a crash time. So I would stay away from soft drinks if you can. Go with teas, flavored waters, or regular water, put a slice of lemon or lime in it. But treat yourself to a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Some of your teas, your herbal teas, have some good organic and good naturopathic nutritional value to them. But no, it doesn't substitute for good, honest water. And if you don't have a good filtering system in your water source, then certainly go ahead and buy bottled water. That's what we do. But you get a good filtering system, and that could also help you out a lot too, Mark. But that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
I think people will say,
what about seltzer or sparkling waters? Does that count, or does that not count?
I think, you know what? I think that is acceptable because it's not a quinine or a tonic water, because your tonic water has sugar. It's a high sugar content, but your sparkling water mixes, that tends to be as natural as you're going to get. And if it's a choice between not doing anything and doing that, so be it. Do that. It is much better than soft drinks. So if you're transitioning into water, like some people say, yick, go with get out of the Coke and Pepsi and all that other Sprite. Get into that vehicle to utilize, and then slowly transition to by watering it down with good water. Your power drinks, your Gatorades and your Power Aids, water those down, dilute them, because if you really look at the ingredients, high sugar content, high ascorbic acid, high additive content. God gave us, Mother Nature gave us water, and our bodies are 83% water, purely water, ironically enough. So every cell in the body needs water to survive, and so we need to give it to it. And as a rule, what I like to use for my patients and anybody, it's not graphic, check your urine color. If you urinate and it's coming out dark, you're dehydrated. If it's coming out like lemonade or clear, you're hydrating enough. If it's coming out like orange juice, you're dehydrated. Simple rule.
Now, you mentioned earlier about if you're working you're working on your laptop sitting in bed, you're going to develop insomnia issues eventually. So how does sleep play into good health? How much sleep should somebody get a night?
Boy, I'll tell you what, I think that varies for everybody, because it depends on what you do during the day. But I'm in the process of reading a book I just got from a colleague of mine on the importance of sleep. A PhD researcher has researched this, so I will tune into the future. But as a rule, you really want to try to target that 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. There are two different nervous systems that are going on. One is called the fight or flight nervous system, which is our stress nervous system. That is going full speed ahead during the day. I talked about that on Tina's radio show on Wednesday. There's another nervous system, Mark, which we coined the nickname of rest and digest. It's the parasympathetic nervous system. This nervous system is oftentimes shut off during the day because we are on the run, we are on the fly, our adrenal glands are going overtime. We need to downturn with that. And if it's not purely sleeping, this is part of my classifications of mind, body, spirit for today's talk. You can start engaging in restful activities, meditation, yoga class, listening to relaxation music, doing crossword puzzles, taking hikes, communicate with Mother Nature. If you are disciplined enough to do these, engage in these activities during the day, you're shutting down that fight or flight response, and you're getting your nervous system's balanced, and you're being restful during the day, so then you may not require as much sleep at night. But for those of us in the Northeast and I'm working very hard, semi-retired, on really balancing this fine, intricate relationship between these nervous systems, or getting enough sleep and being too active. Life is clearly a balance, Mark. So If you're waking up rested in the morning, whatever that number of sleep is, then that should be adequate for you. But as a cue, if you're waking up and you can't wait to have your first cup of coffee, or if you're falling asleep during the day, or if you're really using these energy drinks to meet your deadlines, if you're really just tired all day, then you clearly are not getting enough sleep during the day. So try to target that 8 hours of good quality rest and sleep. I think that's critical.
One other
for
question.
repair.
One other question here. What about napping during the day? I know that so many of us work at home now, and it's very it's very inviting to want to say, "I'll take a cat nap for 20 minutes or a half hour." Is napping okay, or should you limit the amount of time that you nap?
Ironically, you bring that up. I think napping is a very important and crucial part of your day if you can do that. I spoke recently with a psychiatrist friend of mine. She had a class with the physician who researched and found and coined the phrase power nap back in the 80s. And this, I don't remember what the physician's name is. He's a psychiatrist or PhD psychologist. Power naps, there is some research to show that power naps are very important to help maintain your wellness. It kind of recharges you during a time you're listening to your body. So, if, Mark, I've been taking a power rest nap for many, many years. I would come home from work when I was at Trinity, lay down. I would not fall asleep. I'd lay on my back, and I would just rest for 20 minutes. If I fell asleep, I'd start to snore and wake myself up. But I think, great point, build in a 20-minute nap during your time, usually right after lunch if you do some work, and then you start to have that kind of insulin rush because it's starting to work on that blood sugar level that's increased from eating. Lay down and take a 20-minute power nap, but there's a time limit on that. Google power naps. If you sleep too long, it will totally disrupt your night, and you'll get your days and nights mixed up. But 15 to 30 minutes seems to be a good time limit to rest, and it shouldn't really affect your night sleep if you do it earlier enough in the day. So go for it, Mark. I think it'd be great working at home like that.
Gary, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for being here this morning, and it's going to be one of my New Year's resolutions to get you back on this program again at some point down the road, and maybe have you come into the studio so we can do an hour and maybe take some questions from people and all of that good stuff.
I would be honored to do that, Mark. Thanks for asking me. Stay safe and have a great New Year, okay?
You too, Gary. We've been chatting with Gary Gorman, who's a chiropractor, and a lot of his work is done here at Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 and WSKB 89.5 FM on Wednesday mornings when he joins his wife, Tina Gorman, for her show. So if you go to Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 or Westfield WSKB Community Radio on YouTube, you can find some of his programs and regimens and all of that. We're going to take a break to acknowledge our underwriters. When we come back, we're going to be talking with a diabetic educator, Toby Smithson, who has really got some great hints for how to maintain a healthy diet during the new year. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach, and we'll be right back.
SKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. on the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer today, and we are here at Studio 120, devoting an hour of On the Mark to better health in the new year. And our next guest is a diabetes educator, who is an award-winning one at that, an author. Her name is Toby Smithson. And I got to meet Toby sort of indirectly because one of my clients is the podcast series Game Changers in Medicine. And their current edition is about the development and the discovery and the use of insulin. And Toby is one of the guest speakers for both the original podcast and a bonus edition that's out there. And I started following her website, which is called Diabetes Every Day, and her YouTube channel. And I found out that there were a lot of good advice that Toby could offer in terms of diet. And we share something else. Toby and I are both type 1 diabetics. And so diet is very important to our everyday survival. And we're always, checking to see where we're at as diabetics. And so some of the stuff that we've learned is great if you're considering making diet changes or monitoring your blood sugar intake or any of that. So I'm really glad to have this opportunity to chat one-on-one with Toby. Good morning.
Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. First of all, I really love a lot of your comments on Game Changers in Medicine. And that's sort of where I got to. It was like a reinforcement for me, realizing that a lot of the things that I've learned as a diabetic, that other people that don't have diabetes can use in their everyday living to maintain healthy diet and exercise and other kinds of regimens. And on the other thing I learned is that only a diabetic can really help another diabetic see the light and move forward so that they don't feel guilty all the time. So I'm real excited to get this chance to talk to you.
Great. Yeah, you know what? You brought up one of my key points that I was going to make. I like to give messaging in groups of 3. And so I had all prepared what are my 3 top messages that I would give to the audience about healthy eating in the new year. So I'm going to do that backwards here because those 3 key points I'm going to go over, but my important note to it is precisely what you just said, that an eating plan for people with diabetes can be the same healthy eating plan for the whole family. So it's not that we're separated out. There are, for people with diabetes, a couple key points that we need to focus on. But overall, the same messages that I'm going to give about healthy eating go for everybody, the whole family.
That's true. I mean, when I was diagnosed, I was a teenager when I was diagnosed, and the nurse educator at the time had my mother come in and was explaining that you don't really have to change the menu that you're making for the rest of the family. The rest of the family can eat well and be perfectly satisfied on a diet that diabetics tend towards. And yes, you can have certain kinds of sugar, and in your diet, sugar is naturally there in certain fruits and vegetables and stuff. But the important thing is to be aware, I guess, of what it is that you eat, whether you're on a diet to maintain your life, whether you're on a diet to lose weight or whatever. When people come to you and they say, how should I eat better or what should I do, where do you start pointing them in what direction to help build a healthier diet?
Yeah, I use the plate method, and I'll do a really quick review. The plate method is out there for everybody. For people with diabetes, the plate method is designed, it's a great visual, and that's why I start with that. Everybody has eaten off a plate at one time or another, or consistently, and so it's a great visual, and half of the plate be filled with vegetables, 1/4 with the protein source, and the other quarter with the carbohydrate-containing foods. So that's a healthy eating pattern for people with diabetes. It's a great visual, and you can take that visual wherever you go, whether you're at home or you're at a friend's house or you're out to eat, wherever you could have that visual. And I think that that's a really good starting point. As far as like portioning out your food and making sure that your plate is balanced. We don't want to miss any of those key important food groups for the nutrients and vitamins and minerals that they provide.
Now, when you're balancing out a meal for yourself or for somebody else, and that's a great visual idea. But when you look at the packaging and you go into a store, in the supermarket, and you look at the packaging, what should you be looking at on that package? Because the serving sizes are never realistic when you think about it. But what elements are the most important to consider when you're buying something off the shelf?
Yeah, I turn to the nutrition facts label all the time, so I'm glad that you're bringing that up. For people with diabetes, we need to look at the total grams of carbohydrate. A lot of people get confused with, grams of sugar on the food label. For people with diabetes, I want to make it as easy as possible. It's total grams of carbohydrate that we're looking at, because the grams of sugar are included in the total grams, and that's what we're looking at. So the grams of carb, I will look at protein, and I'd look at the type of fat, seeing if there's a high number of saturated fat. And for those people that need to look at their sodium levels, that would be another key part of the food label that I would look at. So it's depending on what you want to use that particular food for, and why I'm saying that you look at carb, protein, and fat at minimum.
Is organic food better for you in terms of carbs and protein than non-organic, or does it not really matter?
It doesn't have any effect whatsoever, so it doesn't matter. No.
Okay. One of the things, you had a video out a couple of weeks ago about drinking water and how to make drinking water more bearable for some people that don't like it. How much water should you drink a day, whether you're diabetic or not? And where do juices count, for example? Does tea or coffee count? Or when you drink a certain amount of water, it has to be plain water?
Yeah, when we're talking about water, in general, it's plain water. But in that video that I did, I showed a couple tips of how to flavor your water without adding any calories to it or grams of carb to it. So that's fine. That's considered fluid ounces of water. For people with diabetes especially, actually for people with or without diabetes, fruit juice doesn't count as your water consumption. And coffee and tea, that can be included if it's not decaffeinated. I was getting tongue-tied with that, decaffeinated. So because the caffeine, we want to have that's the equal to the water, not having the caffeine.
Now, you have been diabetic since you were preteen. Did you find learning to eat in a healthy way, did you find it restrictive? I mean, can you, let's say, have an ice cream cone once in a while, or do you really have to stay away from the sugars?
I'm a believer, not only from my experience as somebody with diabetes, but also going through being a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and education specialist, having those credentials. I have the science behind me too, to say that all foods can fit. And so I don't want people to feel deprived. That's a big discussion that I have with individuals. When you feel deprived, then what happens? You want it that much more. You don't have to feel deprived in order to follow a healthy eating plan. So if I want the ice cream cone, I look up to see how many grams of carb it is, and I balance it into my plan.
Yeah. Did you find from your personal experience that it was tough to stay to the regimen? Did you beat yourself up to maintain it and find it difficult? And what were your coping strategies when things got rough? Go to a party, for example, somebody's birthday party, and it was a table laden full of cake and pie and ice cream, and you had to balance where the other people could just pile it away. How did you develop your own coping strategy to move forward, eat right, and exercise right, and all of that?
Mm-hmm. Part of the strategy was that since I was young when this started, and it goes a little bit with my personality too, that I want to do right. I'm probably hard on myself. Like my endocrinologist will say, "Boy, you're hard on yourself," but that's what's kept me in line. To have an A1C that is doing very, very well. Below the target range and all that. So I think in my mind, what I take that science that I learned and knowledge to keep me strong. I really know that everybody really should be eating the same way that I am. So I have just, number one, my health on my mind, that if I'm going to stay healthy, I'm the only one that can do that. So it is up to me to do it. And other than that, I'm not sure. It's just so natural for me. I don't know what else I could say about it. That, I look at things and I assess it in my mind, use the knowledge that I gained. And all people with diabetes can do this too. You have a lot of great information. And I use that as a positive as somebody with diabetes, that it helps me. That I know I need to do this for my health, whereas some people that may not get diabetes till later in life, and in their 60s or so, and then they're being told you need to follow this type of regimen, healthy eating and exercise, and then it's more difficult for them. So it's just part of my everyday. I've just acknowledged that, and there's some key points too about taking care of yourself. I've been looking into reading and listening to podcasts, different things that you want to make sure that you're being kind to yourself. Appreciate yourself for who you are. And like when it comes to exercise, you want to move more because you like it. You like how it feels. Not that, there's like this whip, like you must do this kind of thing. So, make sure that you're not letting the diet culture tell you that you aren't good enough. And you have a lot in your power to eat a healthy and take care of yourself.
Now, where is your go-to for information? I know you've got this incredible podcast series on YouTube and a website. It's called Diabetes Every Day. And did you develop that, or did you join that? Is this your creation?
It is my creation, and when you think about the title of my website, diabeteseveryday.com, I just sat back when I wanted to develop this and said, diabetes is every day. It's not that we take a holiday or a vacation. And so it says it in the name, diabetes every day. Yep, if you have diabetes, you will have, it is every day. And for a positive, I don't want to go into any negatives, but I developed my website and then launched my YouTube channel, Diabetes Every Day. And the purpose behind both of them is to have credible information out there in the YouTube space and also on the website. You know that, if you have a question, please reach out to me. I'm glad to help out, develop a video on that topic. That's how some of my videos come to fruition, is that for people reaching out to me to say, I'm really confused about this or that. Like I have one on, can people with diabetes eat bread? There's a lot of confusion on that. So I'm trying to find things that will be helpful for people, and so that you know that it's credible information. I'm not selling anything, any supplement or anything like that.
What are the biggest misconceptions that diabetics or non-diabetics have about diet that you would like to change in people's eating habits?
The biggest is I can't have any carbs, and that's not true. Carbs are very important food, group. They provide important nutrients, and a good one to think about is fiber. Most of the grams of fiber that we get are from the carbohydrate-containing foods. So we want to go with complex carbs over simple carbs. Complex carbs generally will have a good source of the fiber. Simple carbs are an important part of somebody with diabetes, because sometimes we need to have those things like Lifesavers or Smarties or a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of honey, or half a cup of regular soda. Those are all simple carbohydrates. Normally, that will raise a blood sugar very quickly. We would need that if our blood sugars were trending low, 70 or below. That's called hypoglycemia. So I don't even want to dismiss those types of carbs. They are needed, very important in the diet at certain points, if our blood sugars are 70 or below.
Okay. What about exercise and diet? I know they're interchanged, but if you're exercising, can you eat more? Or do you have to maintain the same regimen, separate but equal?
Mm-hmm. So that is another point about a diet for anybody, whether you have diabetes or not. It's individualized. So total calories in, total calories out is always one of the things that we're looking at. So it could be that you can eat more if you exercise. And for maintaining blood sugars, it's doing what I call paired checking before the exercise or before you eat, and 2 hours after you eat. That's called paired checking, to see how your blood sugars are reacting to the food that you're eating. And for exercise, it's checking before exercise and after. And that's just to keep everything in line for for staying healthy.
Now, let's say you don't have diabetes, but you tend towards obesity, or you have another physical condition that warrants, maintaining your weight or maintaining your intake of certain fruits and vegetables and what have you. Where are some of the resources that you can go to make sure that you're eating right?
Mm-hmm. There's a couple. Well, let me think of the top. For diabetes, actually, I have a book, Diabetes Meal Planning and Nutrition for Dummies. So for people with diabetes, there's a resource for credible information. EatRight.org is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. That's my mothership as a registered dietitian. The Association of Diabetes Care and Education Specialists, ADCES, is for diabetes-specific information. Those are two great websites. Also, I had the honor to be on the U.S. News and World Report committee for rating the best diets, and that just came out on Monday. So you could go to Best Diets 2021 on U.S. News, and it will give you best diets for weight loss as and you could see who were the credentials people that rated these. I was so honored to be on this committee. But best overall diets, best weight loss diets, and you could read all about the background on what the diet includes.
That's amazing. How much time of your workday do you spend on diabetes every day in terms of producing material for the public? And how much time do you spend on a one-on-one situation advising clients?
Mm-hmm. So for advising clients, usually it's about 30 to 45 minutes. It depends. A follow-up is 30 minutes, 45 minutes is for initial. For working on my YouTube channel, I was just before the show writing my next script. So it's just a process of, writing the script, getting all the props, and filming, and then editing it and getting it out there. So I don't know. It's such a joy for me doing this that I don't even look to see how much time it's taking. I do it all in-house. My husband is my editor. And so when I'm telling people, it's part of our entertainment in a way, we enjoy filming this so much and getting this information. It's just such a feel good. So I don't know how much time we spend.
Yeah, it must be difficult though setting up I watch a lot of your videos, and you've got all the portions allocated ahead of time, and then if you're cooking something, you're putting something in the oven, but you already had one that you're taking out to show people. How long does it take you to plan a segment like that?
Yeah, so the recipes are the longest. They take the longest because it's such a process for cooking for on camera, and especially if there's baking or grilling involved, the cooking process. I would say those could take a good hour. So those are the longer ones. And getting ready to do another recipe video, and we will block out more time for prepping.
Yeah. Do you get a chance to talk with other diabetic educators and discuss trends and best practices to help people along with their diets?
Mm-hmm. I do, and I go to conferences so that I could, I'm always listening carefully. With the number of people that have diabetes just here in the U.S., you're always running into people that have diabetes, and I listen very carefully. Like, what are their questions? Where are their concerns? And that's usually how I also write for U.S. News and World Report, and I'm a blogger for them. And I take all of this information that I'm hearing from others to put into helping to answer them through my videos and my website and my blogs.
Another question, are you the only diabetes educator and practitioner that is a type 1 diabetic, or are there others?
Oh, there are others. There are. I don't have a number on how many. Some are dietitians, some are nurses. There's even an endocrinologist in the New York area who has diabetes. So there are others, definitely.
Because I just remember when I was diagnosed, I got all the information. I was initially treated at one of the leading diabetic practices in the country, the Joslin Clinic. But it was another diabetic who found out that I had diabetes, who took me to the supermarket and said, this is how you look for things. And there was some kind of bonding, but because that person knew what I was going through, made it much easier for me to adjust and to move forward, because when you've been there, it's easier to explain to someone who's in the process. So I didn't know if
Right.
it made it because you're diabetic, you're more sympathetic to the people that you're working with.
I think it's just natural to be so. There's something special about it, and I know I had talked about this story on Game Changers that actually is how I decided what field to go into to become a dietitian. Is that I was diagnosed like at an early age, and then I had one hospitalization because I had a very bad stomach flu. And so I was hospitalized for that. And in the meantime, I had a dietetic intern come to my bedside to ask me my food preferences. And she revealed to me that she had type 1 diabetes. And it was just like this, oh my gosh, such happiness. I was in 8th grade, and that's an important time in life, where you're trying to figure out who you are, what you.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
this is something I could do.
Well, Toby, we're just about out of time, but before we go, I wanted you to kind of go down where people can get information that you're putting out there, because you're involved in so many different medium. And I will also want to plug Dramatic Health's Game Changers in Medicine podcast series at gamechangersinmedicine.com, where you are prominently featured in their current episode about the discovery and development of insulin, and also a bonus feature. But they found you because of so many of your projects and programs. So let's list them all so people can go find them.
Oops. We just cut out for a second, so I'm not sure what you just last said.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you to list some of the places where people can find your information.
Okay. DiabetesEveryday.com is my website, and you could always reach out through that avenue. I also have a newsletter that you could sign up for, and so you could hear from me on a monthly basis that way, everything that's new in the diabetes world. I have Diabetes Meal Planning and Nutrition for Dummies book, Diabetes Every Day as my Facebook page, Diabetes Every Day on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as Toby Smithson, and probably most important is Diabetes Every Day on my YouTube channel.
So you're out there on just about every platform possible.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn too. Under
Okay.
Toby Smithson.
Yeah. Toby, thanks for joining us. We've been chatting with Toby Smithson, who is a dietitian, an author. She is the person behind Diabetes Every Day. She's also a diabetic, and she's got a very inspiring story to tell, along with some very practical advice. And that wraps up another edition of On the Mark. We thank you for joining us. We're here every Wednesday, and if you've missed a part of this broadcast today or any of our previous episodes, you can find them on YouTube under WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach, and we'll be here next week. Thanks for joining us.
Hope for the best, expect the worst. Some drink champagne, some die of thirst. No way of knowing which way it's going. Hope for the best, expect the worst. Hope for the best, expect the worst. The world's a stage, we're unrehearsed. Some reach the top friends, while others strong friends. Hope for the best, expect the worst. I knew a man who said a fortune that was splendid. Then he died the day he planned to go and spend it, shouting, live while you're alive. No one will survive. Life is sorrow. Here today and gone tomorrow. Live while you're alive. No one will survive. There's no guarantee. Hope for the best. Expect the worst. You could be Tolstoy or Fanny Burst. So take your chances. There are no answers. Hope for the best. Expect the worst. Smithson.